Welcome to the public hearing for the I-290 Eisenhower Expressway study, conducted by the Illinois Department of Transportation, as well as the Blue Line Vision study, conducted by the Chicago Transit Authority. The purpose of today's hearing is to present findings and seek comments on the I-290 study, as summarized in the Draft Environmental Impact Statement, or DEIS. We are also seeking comments on the Blue Line Vision study and on disconnecting Bataan Drive and Harrison Street frontage roads at First Avenue. The study is following the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA process, and involves the preparation of an environmental impact statement. The study involved extensive stakeholder outreach to identify transportation needs, develop and evaluate alternatives for all modes, and to select a preferred alternative. The draft EIS is a federal and state document that describes the process for developing a transportation project. The draft EIS was released on December 30th, 2016, which begins the 45-day review and comment period, which ends February 13th, 2017. The draft EIS can be found on the project website and at libraries within the study area. A summary of the evaluation is presented in the exhibit room. The vision of I-290 dates as far back as Daniel Burnham's 1909 plan for Chicago. The expressway was designed in the late 1940s, opened in segments between the years 1955 to 1960, and was the first multimodal facility in the country. The I-290 study area extends from west of Mannheim Road to Racine Avenue. The project length is 13 miles. The I-290 study began in 2009 with stakeholder outreach. The planning process took place in 5 phases that built upon each other, beginning with an analysis and discussion of transportation problems, alternatives development, and ending with identifying a preferred alternative. Simultaneously, IDOT has worked with the CTA as they developed the Blue Line Vision study to enhance the transit planning process and identify improvements for the CTA Blue Line in the I-290 corridor. The I-290 study is anticipated to be completed in the summer of 2017. Stakeholder involvement activities allowed the study team to gain insight on stakeholder concerns and work to minimize effects on the communities. IDOT and the study team have worked extensively with stakeholders while conducting corridor advisory group meetings, public meetings, agency meetings, community meetings, and taking over 1,500 comments into consideration. Improving all travel modes and community connections is critical due to I-290 serving as a primary corridor connecting commuters locally and regionally. Congestion, safety issues, and an outdated facility are significant concerns. There are thousands of crashes and traffic backs up on the main line and ramps for long stretches. The transportation problems that are being addressed by the I-290 study include improving mobility, access to employment, safety, connections between travel modes, and roadway condition and design deficiencies. The alternatives evaluation included the examination of all modes of travel within the transportation system and coordination with area transit agencies, including the Regional Transportation Authority, PACE, CTA, and METRA regarding their needs in the corridor. The study team also coordinated with freight companies in the corridor, including CSX and the Indiana Harbor Belt Railroads. Beginning with hundreds of alternatives and 3 rounds of evaluation, 4 build alternatives and a no-build alternative were evaluated in greater detail and included a combination of highway and transit improvements with stakeholder participation throughout the process. These alternatives add a lane to create 4 lanes in each direction from Mannheim to Racine and include transit improvements to provide access to employment. The 4 alternatives vary mainly by how the inside lane will be managed, including carpooling, tolling, combinations of tolling and carpooling, or no management strategy. Out of the 4 alternatives, the best performing alternative is the high occupancy toll lane known as HOT3+, and is the preferred alternative. This provides a reliable and predictable travel option, is the best balance of I-290 and arterial capacity improvements, and provides additional travel choices for motorists and non-motorists. This alternative would add an HOT lane on the inside, and cars carrying 3 or more passengers and buses would ride toll-free. Others could use the lane by paying a toll that would rise and fall based on the time of day. From east of Austin Boulevard to Racine Avenue, the existing inside lanes would be restriped and converted to HOT lanes. The outside lanes would remain toll-free. During peak travel times, it is anticipated the HOT lane users would travel at a minimum average speed of 45 miles per hour, reducing travel times by 56%. Travel times in the toll-free lanes would also improve by 25%. Studies have shown that HOT lanes are used by all income levels. With the preferred alternative, all existing interchange ramps remain open. At the First Avenue interchange, the existing design causes long signal waits and extensive vehicle stacking. These conditions make it harder to access the communities along First Avenue. Adding to these concerns is the fact that about 90% of the vehicles accessing the frontage roads to or from I-290 is cut-through traffic. Under proposed conditions, the First Avenue interchange would be rebuilt, and the frontage roads, Harrison Street and Bataan Drive, would be disconnected from First Avenue. Additional turn lanes along First Avenue are also proposed. These changes will improve safety, capacity, and operations, and will change the frontage roads to a more local character. In the most constrained section of the study area, through the villages of Forest Park and Oak Park, all four alternatives stay within the existing trench. This includes an interchange as well as transit and pedestrian improvements at Harlem Avenue and Austin Boulevard. Proposed bicycle and pedestrian features include wider sidewalks, pedestrian plazas, safety islands, high visibility crosswalks, lighting, pedestrian countdown signals, and an east-west path that extends the Prairie Path to Columbus Park. These improvements also provide better access to transit. IDOT has partnered with the Chicago Park District, and as part of the preferred alternative enhancements at Columbus Park's west side, a trail connection is being proposed, as well as landscaping options. Enhanced landscaping and drainage improvements are also proposed on the east side of the park. There is opportunity for aesthetic enhancements that would improve the overall visual experience of the corridor from both the expressway perspective and from the local roads and bridges. At the local crossroad level, the aesthetics will be driven by local context and coordinated with each community during final design. The I-290 project is considering many sustainability features, including additional green space areas, solar panels, permeable pavement for bike paths, sidewalk planters, LED lighting, alternatives that encourage ride-sharing and transit use, and other features that support and strengthen community connections. Non-IDOT standard items would require local cost participation and maintenance. The preferred alternative includes supporting transit features. IDOT studied the Blue Line extension, and it was determined that there was a lack of supporting land use for a rail extension at this time. However, a corridor is being preserved for future extension. Initial service would be express bus in the HOT lane with connections to local bus routes. The Chicago Transit Authority, or CTA, initiated the Blue Line Forest Park Branch Vision Study in 2013 in coordination with the I-290 Alternatives Development to determine a long-term planning strategy for the branch. Today, over 30,000 trips are made every weekday using the Blue Line Forest Park Branch. The vision study evaluated the needs of the transit corridor, specifically evaluating existing infrastructure conditions, transit markets, and service patterns to provide recommendations for the branch going forward. Over the course of the study, outreach to local communities helped develop the study's recommendations. In conjunction with IDOT, information on the study was presented at public meetings, I-290 Corridor Advisory Group meetings, and in one-on-one meetings with municipalities and elected officials. Last summer, the CTA also held an open house in Chicago. Recommendations to modernize and reconstruct the branch reflect study findings and public input collected over the past several years and include rehabilitate infrastructure, starting with track work, assure all stations are ADA accessible, and improve overall customer amenities for the entire branch. Maintain existing layouts for double-entry stations while adding auxiliary entrances for single-entry stations at Western, Pulaski, and Cicero. Include a turnback track west of Illinois Medical District to accommodate construction phasing and future service increases. And finally, redesign and expand the Forest Park Terminal within the current parcel to modernize the yard and shop as well as bus and pedestrian connections. For specific study findings, please visit the exhibit room. As the Forest Park branch shares the right-of-way with I-290, the feasibility study recommended improvements will continue to be planned in coordination with IDOT's current planning for the reconstruction of Eisenhower Expressway. The key next steps are project development, engineering, and construction phases. The CTA values the continual involvement of all project stakeholders and will continue to request feedback throughout the process. I-290 is an urban corridor with the existing environment, mature and established with limited space for new development. The communities are the environment, and the priority was to avoid direct community impacts. As part of the DEIS, there were multiple environmental areas analyzed, and several primary environmental effects will now be reviewed. Transportation projects such as I-290 must avoid disproportionate and adverse impacts to the low-income and minority populations. The preferred alternative has no residential or business displacements and provides improved travel times to and from low-income and minority communities, employment centers, and improves non-motorized travel. The preferred alternative provides better connections to transit and additional travel choices, and therefore, no impact was identified. The preferred alternative would result in slight improvements to air quality due to reduced congestion. Under existing conditions, most areas along I-290 have high noise levels exceeding federal criteria for traffic noise impacts. The preferred alternative does not result in noticeable change in traffic noise. IDOT prepared a noise analysis and shared the results with stakeholders in a series of meetings. Property owners and occupants who would benefit from a noise wall were asked to vote for or against the construction of proposed noise walls in their neighborhood. 46 noise walls were voted in favor. Noise walls will be further discussed with stakeholders during final design. Over 1,000 properties were surveyed to determine their historical significance, and those findings were shared with stakeholders. The I-290 project avoids any displacement of historic properties, and therefore no adverse effects are anticipated. The evaluation of effects will be further coordinated with stakeholders and incorporated into the final EIS. Secondary and cumulative impacts, or potential impacts beyond the project area, were also analyzed. The study area is urban, therefore the preferred alternative will not cause any meaningful shift in population or employment. The preferred alternative will require right-of-way or temporary easements from 3 properties along Circle Avenue in Forest Park. At the Dog Park and Veterans Park, right-of-way is required for sidewalk improvements and a drop-off area for transit riders. At the proposed community center site, a temporary easement is required to reconstruct Circle Avenue. A temporary easement is required at Columbus Park for a proposed trail connection. To minimize construction impacts, IDOT plans to make improvements to major corridors such as I-55, Illinois Route 64, and Cermak Road. More localized improvements will be considered along Madison Street and Roosevelt Road. These improvements are anticipated to be complete before I-290 construction would begin. The I-290 project is estimated to cost, in future dollars, $2.7 billion. IDOT and the CTA are continuing discussions regarding construction timing and funding. The project includes many benefits such as improved design for motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians, wider sidewalks and a new east-west and multi-use path, local aesthetic opportunities, improved mobility, $2.7 billion in productivity savings, improved drainage for I-290 and in some areas along I-290, 6% overall improvement in safety, increased access to jobs, and over 18,000 construction jobs. Following today's public hearing and receiving your input on the DEIS by February 13, 2017, comments will be summarized and addressed in the final EIS. Upon receiving concurrence from resource agencies on the I-290 DEIS, a record of decision will be issued in the summer of 2017. The FEIS and record of decision will identify the selected alternative for implementation. At this time, the replacement of the stormwater pump station at the Des Plaines River is included in the department's multi-year program. For the remainder of the I-290 project, Phase 2 or detailed design and land acquisition and Phase 3 or construction are currently not funded. If you have questions this evening, IDOT and CTA study team members are available in the exhibit room to help. At 7 p.m., we are holding a question and answer session. If you would like to participate, please fill out a participation form and hand it to a study team member. A moderator will invite you to publicly ask your question. In order for your comments to be included in the public hearing record, provide your comments to the court reporters here this evening, submit a comment form, or submit on the project website by February 13, 2017. We are also taking comments today on the CTA's Blue Line Vision Study. Please visit the exhibit room to give us your input and meet with study team members. IDOT maintains a firm commitment to public involvement by continuing to seek your input. Thank you for your participation in this process. This presentation will restart momentarily.